what is it that you want to do? I think that's the best thing. I asked myself, what do you truly enjoy? And I said that at the start of the year. I enjoy creating content. I enjoy not having to kind of be a slave to the algorithm. I want to create content how I want to create. I want to coach people who I want to coach. And, you know, that radiates, people can see that. And then you kind of get back into that pattern, that kind of knock-on impact.
All right, bro, let's get into it. So you know what's quite funny, right? You as a pretty masculine dude are so open about what you do online. And I think that's fucking super admirable, man, because like a lot of people, especially in like internet space these days, like, you know, it's fucking fake it till you make it vibe, like pretend as you're going. But you've been always like super open about the highs and the lows. Why do you think like that kind of is? Was that kind of always your character growing up?
Yeah, it's just hard. It's just hard to keep it in. Like I can't. Obviously, there's certain things I'll keep in, like personal life and issues like that. But I just find it very hard to keep on board emotions and to keep on board even like future projects and things like that. Like sometimes my old mentor would say, like, hold back a little bit. Like you don't need to. It's not like a kind of an arrogant or egotistical thing. It's like, guys, I'm working on this really exciting project I want to tell you about. Like I really like showing the behind the scenes. So a couple of times ago, for Classic drops, I'll set up a camera and show them like day number one of what I'm doing in terms of content creation. And it looks like you probably don't need to do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't look like that. But yeah, I can't keep things bottled up. As soon as I do, and I have in the past, you know, I've clicked into that mindset and that headspace once and become very like motivated by money and kind of like grind hustle culture and no feelings, and it just wasn't me. It just didn't feel comfortable and I couldn't do it. You know, I burnt out very, very quickly.
That's probably why it worked for you though. If you think about it, like your character of like sharing some shit, sharing some random stuff, just some like you driving around your fucking car, probably stood to you more than like this crystallized version of like who you should be, just some like shredded massive dude, you know?
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's weird because sometimes like I have to think about it when I'm doing like a product launch. I'm like, right, I probably need to bias slightly more information surrounding that, but then I'll find it really hard not to just jump on the camera on the Instagram story and just say, like, I've got a brand new packet of crisps. Like yesterday, I found these crisps, from I can't remember what they're called. Whatsits, the crunchy Whatsits. They're unbelievable. Like I'm like, people need to know this. Like, it's very rare that I'm excited about crisps. You know what I mean, I'm nearly 30.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I was like, these crisps are unreal. So people need to know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're looking young for fucking coming up to 30, man. You're looking younger than me. It's the long hours on my end, I said, to be honest, at this stage.
Bit of Benjamin Button action. I seem to be reversing the years. It's quite nice.
Yeah, a bit of fucking facelift on the way, a bit of Botox. So obviously you've been fucking really changing around everything at the moment, you know, and like you got out of bodybuilding, you got into functional fitness, and now you're kind of a little turn as well at the moment. Do you ever kind of struggle with your identity over the last year, 2 years?
Yeah, but not to the point whereby I think there's a lot of people that see individuals like myself who do change potentially quite frequently, and they almost hold that against me, and they think, oh, I've got one up on Tom. Like he was a bodybuilder, now he's doing functional, now he's gone back to bodybuilding. I'm like, if you're getting off on me changing around, because I'll jump into something, experience it, and if it's a bit of me, then I'll be like, yeah, this is me now, fantastic, I enjoy it. If I jump into something head first and I enjoy it, but it's not really me, then there's nothing wrong with reverting back to what I like and enjoy. And you know, I've been called out in the past for this whole transition over the last couple of years. People are thinking that it's all planned, and I'm like, do you think I'm I'm meticulous, very meticulous with business and content creation, but do you think I'm sitting here planning like, okay, in the tail end of 2022, I'm going to plan that my mental health's going to be like poor. Like, come on, it's crazy. So I definitely think you are open to that when you do kind of reposition yourself in the industry. But like, as I said before, I kind of correlated and was in a bad spot with bodybuilding. I was like, I need to get as far away from bodybuilding as possible because it's just not feeling good for me right now. And jump straight into the functional fitness side of things. You know, I did the High Rocks last week, which is fantastic. The endorphins from that. And someone made quite a good comment on YouTube. They said, look, you're flowing at the moment. You're very happy. Why are you going back to bodybuilding? It's like, I'm not going back to bodybuilding. I'm not going back to competing. I'm going back into physique development because I want to be in a position now whereby I can improve the way I look. Because, you know, the last 6 or so months coming off anabolic steroids, coming off TRT has kind of put me in a place where I'm not hugely happy with the way I look. So the fact that we've gone through that journey has now put me in a position whereby it's actually like an additional bonus. It's like I can go through physique development blocks once I'm happy with condition, I might go, right, I'm going to do an 8-week performance block now and do my 5K, my 10K and my ski erg and really kind of tap into being, you know, healthy and physically fit as well. So that's what I see from it. And I take the positive from it. You know, I'm enjoying where things are at the moment.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because like the bodybuilding sphere or any sphere is like you need to do one thing continuously over and over again to become great at it. And to some degree you do, right? But unless you wanted to be like Joe and do fucking all the pro shows, or Josh do all the pro shows, you wouldn't necessarily need to do it. And I kind of find that too sometimes, like I don't need to be spending every waking minute just focus on one thing. So you can have a combination of both, and it's obviously working to your benefit because you're very healthy now. And of course, you're working through some different things mentally, but you're definitely working towards the person you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just bodybuilding in general, though. It's a very one-size-fits-all approach. Like we've got these individual people in the industry that have these training modalities that anything outside of that, they take the piss out of. You know, we're in this craze now where social media is just kind of almost turning into comedy sketches for people to take the piss out of, like cuffs and bands. So you've got like very successful IFBB pro bodybuilders that are doing these little skits whereby they're clumping together loads of bands and cuffs. I'm like, I get it, it's funny. I find it quite funny. But at the same time, like, we can easily take the piss out of you, and we're not trying to be you. We're not trying to be at the pro stage. We're not trying to be at the Olympia stage. So, you know, I'm just in a position now whereby I quite like those experimental phases that I go through, because it allows me to take certain things from these that I enjoy, and then I can kind of like add it into me as an individual, growth, development, things like that.
You know what's interesting is the fact that, like, you know, at heart, like you're an entrepreneur, like you're always being like a creative entrepreneur, dude. You know better than anyone else that like you should always be testing different ideas, pivoting, moving on. Like, sure, like my background's in like startups, and that's a natural progression. So if you had an idea and you constantly moved, sure, that's part of business. But when it happens in fitness, people look at you wrongly. It's probably because people don't have a fucking clue, and you have a big audience. Some of them absolutely love you, and then some people are just watching from the sidelines. But they don't understand that like as part of your business evolves, so does your life. And you get older, you get more mature, and you focus on better things, you know?
Cool. I had it from day one. I think people, as much as people like appear to be your friends or support you, there's a lot of individuals in the world now that don't like to see you succeed past them. So, you know, they're quite happy and content when you're just starting out on YouTube, this very monotonous, mundane character that doesn't have a lot of maybe personal goods, isn't materialistic, isn't earning a huge amount of money. And then they kind of see you climb the ladder, and then they think, hold on a minute, no, I liked you when you were like this. And like personal growth and development is going to happen. I went through a materialistic phase. I went through like a really emotional phase, kind of understanding what went wrong in previous relationships and things like that. And all throughout, there's always going to be people that are pointing and taking the piss and saying, look, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. So you just become accustomed to it. Like, as you said, there is always going to be positions whereby you are going to change and you are going to evolve, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's bad if you're in the industry for 10 years and you don't look back on previous business and cringe. Like, I think it's important to go, oh my God, I used to create that content and I used to coach like that. And, I used to charge £50 a month for online coaching, and my systems were all over the place. And over the years, working with like Team 3DMJ, Luke Johnson, Callum, Muscle Mentors, all of those guys, Integra, and all of that knowledge and experience allows me to be in a position whereby I can start to like narrow my niche a little bit with who I work with and charge more money and things like that. So, it's just, there's nothing wrong with progression at all.
Yeah, man. I'm laughing because our first episode was done on a fucking Skype #1, but it was done off my iPhone, which was like a year and a half ago. And I looked at it the other day and I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, that was, in that year and a half, there's been so much change, like just in general, but that's important to look back on that stuff and think, what the fuck was I doing? When you talk about like the other guys, kind of getting resentful and whatnot, I always think about that. And where I'm at now at 26, we're kind of breaking off into different categories. And it's usually the people that are the high school jocks that are now losers that think like that. The Goggins quote is like, you'll never meet like a hater that's above you. It's always people below you. And that's kind of what I'm seeing now, is that split. So like, is it mainly like a cultural thing? Like, you're from the UK and from Ireland, pretty fucking similar. A lot of people don't want to see you stand out, don't want to see you excel. They want you to be earning 30K and fucking in some shitty job 9 to 5. Do you think it's kind of cultural?
I think Potentially. I mean, I hear a lot of people that have made it in business and they speak quite openly about it being like an English or UK thing. And then, well, I can't really experience or haven't really experienced other cultures. I've got family over in Spain and things like that. But from what I can see, I mean, who knows? It may be a world thing. It may happen all around the world. It might not just be the UK, but you definitely notice it the more that you are in business and the more that you succeed, that there is like a small kind of cult-like following that just try and pull you down. But as you said, they aren't successful themselves. So why do I need to worry, you know? And purely from an engagement point of view, play with them. Someone comments something bad on YouTube, like the comment, have a conversation with them, because it just means that YouTube's going on the algorithm. So every time I get a comment on my hair, I'm like, let me try and get as much out of you as possible. Do you know what I mean? Let me try and turn your negative comment into a thread of 4 people commenting. Because I've got TM, my TM Cycles followers are savages. You know, they even from day number 1 when Dorian Yates blew me out in Marbella, within seconds, before I could even message Dorian, you've blown out Tom, this is terrible, like, and I'm like, fuck, you know, these guys are savage. So before I can even comment, someone comments, and then all of a sudden you've got a thread, and then my YouTube views go up to a certain degree. So play with them, you know, toy with them.
Yeah, man. Fucking for that algo as well at the same time. When you wanted to kind of make that change, was there a bit of resistance as well on your own side? Because like your loyal, you know, your loyal fans, I guess, followed you from the membership side, loved the steroid information in the beginning, then moved into lifestyle stuff, which was great, and now kind of going a small bit 180 at that point. Were you kind of like shitting it a small bit, being like this is my business and my livelihood as well at the same time?
Totally, yeah. I mean, I kind of pulled back on everything. I got rid of the member site and turned it into a vault. I got rid of a large amount of my clients, and kind of, as we said before we started this podcast, became too comfortable. You know, I look back at my life maybe a couple of years ago when I was in a house that was very cheap in terms of rent, and I had a partner who earned good money, and I looked at my outgoings and I looked at my disposable and I looked at what was coming in through very little work. If I'll be honest, you know, the member site was fantastic, but the actual work that was required to put into that was for me to show up to the gym with Josh and Joe and Gigi and have a good time and click upload. You know, I'm earning X amount of money through doing nothing, and you become way too comfortable. So it was more a case of me saying to myself, look, let me make myself uncomfortable. Let me start working again. You know, I remember listening to Dan Bilzerian talk about like him thinking about going back into like a 9-to-5 job, like flipping burgers and things like that. And I'm like, you can't forget that. And my first job was in McDonald's, and I got the pay slips upstairs. I was getting paid £4.20 an hour. And I think it's important that it needs to stay in the back of your head. Do you know what I mean? So I almost made myself uncomfortable on purpose, and it was tough because I think it was harder than expected in terms of the mental health side of things, and repositioning yourself and creating content that's slightly different to what you're used to or what other people are used to comes at a cost. You know, current clients, future clients, they're like, are you a performance coach now? Are you a physique development coach? Like, and it is hard. And I suppose for me, my way of dealing with things is to kind of almost insult the thing that I'm trying to get away from, which is, you know, like, I think it's just human nature sometimes. It's almost like when you break up with a girlfriend, you tell yourself you've got to hate them. Do you know what I mean? To get over them. And so I kind of hold my hands up there and kind of accept that maybe I mucked up a little bit. But I did spend a lot of time experimenting. It wasn't like a whole kind of, I'm bodybuilding on Saturday and then on Monday I'm functional. You know, I started to introduce little Metcons and AMRAPs here and there. I educated myself. I went to March On, which is like a functional fitness, a thriving functional fitness community, fantastic business, and educated myself. You know, jumped on a course, seminars. I went over there on the weekends. So I was like a sponge again. It was really nice to be the student. And sometimes we forget to be the student, you know, and regardless of how successful you are, there's always more. There's always more to learn. There's always more. So, yeah, it was at that point I just threw myself into this High Rocks prep, which was cool. It was nice to kind of document that. But I noticed that doing bodybuilding for 10 years and you start creating content about like functional fitness and High Rocks, people aren't really interested. And which is a hard one, because you kind of see this dip of current subscribers, but then when you're creating new content about running, you kind of see a spike, but it's more of a flat line. Do you know what I mean? And then I genuinely really enjoyed it at the beginning, and then come Christmas time, I was like, I just miss lifting. Like I miss like bicep curls and lat pull downs, and I missed the physique development side of things because it was all performance. There was no weekly check-ins of how I looked. There was no weighing myself, and it was. I'm quite a militant guy when it comes down to that, and you know, to have that not taken away from me, but to kind of relax a little bit was tough. So, and it was also at a point whereby I improved my head after a couple of year breakup. It was like, right, I genuinely feel good now, and maybe bodybuilding wasn't the issue, and I can still bodybuild, but also incorporate this. So, yeah, it's been a nice old journey of introspection.
Definitely, man. Did you see much of like a churn in customer base, like from a business perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an online coach and have been for the last 11, 12 years. And it's very rare that I'll actually put out stories. I usually have kind of a drip feed of clients from YouTube and from links and things like that. But I definitely felt that it dried up a little bit. But then again, you look at the economic climate, things like that. I tried not to overthink it too much. I think the worst thing to do, any businessman or woman in those stages, is become frantic and start, panicking and dropping prices or appearing desperate like you need people. It's not the case. Ride the storm. I've been at McDonald's earning £4.20, and I've been up here with the member site earning a lot of money. So I can control myself very easily. I just relax. What is it that you want to do? I think that's the best thing. I ask myself, what do you truly enjoy? And I said that at the start of the year. I enjoy creating content. I enjoy not having to kind of be a slave to the algorithm. I want to create content how I want to create. I want to coach people who I want to coach, and that radiates. People can see that, and then you kind of get back into that pattern, that kind of knock-on impact. So yeah, we're in a good spot, really good spot at the moment.
That's interesting, man. For your like acquisition of clients, were you just focusing mainly on your content? Do you have any other kind of like acquisition channel, I guess, from a business perspective?
To kind of take on board new clients.
Yeah, to get more. You just focus mainly on creating content and that drives people inwards, and that's kind of like your strategy.
I would say recently I've actually put up client transformations. I never used to do it before. And obviously you put client transformations up, people are interested. Obviously, it's not rocket science. And over the last 10 or 12 years, I've had really decent results with my clients, and you forget that. I don't know why. You look at other online coaches, and I don't know, maybe I was a little hesitant because I didn't want to go down that typical route of my feed, just turning into like client this, client that. I like to create a story. So like recently had a client called Dan. He trains near me. We can highlight him. We can train with him. We can cue him. We can change. And like, do you know what I mean? It's quite nice to give a bit of a background story. I don't just like posting hundreds of transformation photos. I like people to understand the journey that those clients went through. So we're doing that recently. It's had a really good response. And we've got the Ibiza Classic Season 3 coming up again, which I love. Like every year, it's like a real excitement. And we're doing it a little bit bigger this time. So we're doing like an additional package whereby after it's finished, you get a day with me in Ibiza to train at Nirvana Beach, a photo shoot in Ibiza, and then like a night out. So really kind of encompassing what I enjoy, which is lifestyle, Ibiza, raving, dancing, but also looking good, eating good food and things like that. So yeah, I'm excited to see where we can take that.
Man, it's super unique, like nobody else does shit like that, because that's kind of, I guess, why I was drawn to your content, because it was the lifestyle side of it and the Ibiza side of it. So you can go out, have fun, enjoy it, whatever, like learn to drink around your stuff, learn to manage your food, but have the kind of bold effect, that's why it kind of works so well, I guess, in the first instance. What I want to ask as well is about the work in progress element. So I went through a lot of your videos, and what's interesting is like, you're constantly evolving, and you say that in your videos that you want to evolve. How much of that is like, kind of predicated on the idea that you're allowing yourself to evolve and get to the next stage, whereas most people just want to arrive at the fucking end goal. They're not willing to go through the work in progress. You kind of see that kind of pop up more and more, whether it's social media or people you coach with.
Yeah, but I mean, I always enjoy the journey far more than the actual destination, and I always tell myself that even with Metflow. I mean, I was in the shit with Metflow. It was the first time I've hired a marketing company. Spent a considerable amount of money on that. Like, it's the first time I've ever jumped into it, and I thought, crikey, this is like a whole new world to me. But just enjoy it, mate. I'm waking up. It's tough. I'm stressed, but just enjoy it. You're always reminded of people saying that. Like Mike Tyson podcast said that as well. Stephen Bartlett has spoken about it before. Michael Arteta, the Arsenal manager, has spoken. He asked his players, "What we've got this vision here. What do you enjoy most, the journey or the destination?" And it's always the journey. So, I kind of ensure that I don't forget that every time I wake up. And And in terms of like progression for me, I get asked a lot in these podcast situations, you know, what's your 5-year plan? And it's hard for me to look that far in the future, because you asked me a year ago when we had this podcast, I couldn't have told you that I'd gone down the journey that I am today. Do you know what I mean? If I'd have said, quit bodybuilding, I'm going to go into functional, then I'm going to have a bit of wobble, and then you just never know. So I just think enjoy the process as much as possible, and you know, I absolutely do love the journey. Same with bodybuilding preps, you know. To be completely honest with you, there's a part of me that doesn't really like being on stage in pants, tanned up, and being judged. Do you know what I mean? But what I do love is that grind and hustle of every single day, that being relentless to achieve the physique, and that journey is the most enjoyable part.
Do you think that came from bodybuilding in the first place? Because like you look at your physique at 20 years old and you're like, I'm scrawny, I can get big, I need to look at it over 2 years. Do you think that delayed gratification in other aspects of life has come from bodybuilding?
Yeah, but also other sports as well. You know, when I first started swimming and would idolize the Michael Phelps of the world, the Parrys, and I'd look at their times, I think, oh my God, imagine if I could even get half their time. And then you start doing your swimming time trials, and then you'd set your baseline numbers, and then like 6 months time, I'm trying to aim for this. So that's definitely come from an early age. Same with cricket as well, you know, wanting to try and push myself to county level and district level, and becoming district captain, and having to organise and like look after a team of boys, which is, you know, it came from a very, very early age. So bodybuilding definitely cemented that for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like it's any sport where you go out and do something fucking super difficult. Like that's what a lot of people don't have when they're. That's why sometimes like it's hard to like look at people that are like super lazy, that have never, you know, tried to achieve something physically, and then to take their word that they're going to stick through the absolute shit. Now everyone is different, right? You know, there's like that Alex Hormozy quote where it's like, you know, you don't build confidence by screaming in the mirror. You do it by having many actions after each other. And that's why you get it from a physical sense. Anyone who's done individual sports, I would actually nearly say individual sports more so than team sports. Because
Yeah.
individual sports, like
Yeah.
you own everything.
Of course. And I certainly noticed that when I got sort of sick of cricket. It was like, I might put a good performance in, but my team's let me down a little bit, and I need that. Do you know what I mean? So I can understand that. But then there's also an element of like that Alex quote, whereby you need to instill a little bit of positive affirmation. Do you know what I mean? Like I tell myself every single day for the last kind of few months, I wake up and just say, today's going to be a good day. Even though it may not be, or like I might not be in the headspace, it definitely helps me massively with that positive affirmation. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, man. Like you need to have that instilled belief, whatever it is, especially with fucking in the business world, man. When you walk away from like a 9 to 5 and you're on 100% on your own, and there's nobody around you, pants around the ankles vibe, you do need to have like that 100% belief. Because I put it this way: if you don't believe in yourself, who the fuck is going to believe in you? A client, an investor, a customer? Sure, no one's gonna buy from you.
It's so true.
That's what you do so well, man.
It is very true, and you almost have to. I think it was McGregor that used to speak about it a lot, whereby even back in the day, he would act as if he'd already made it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and I completely resonate with that. I think there's other people that speak about like they kind of have fictitious like narratives and almost imagine that they're in interview situations with themselves, and someone asking you something about your business and yourself, and you kind of tell them that, you know, over the last 5 years I've done this and I'm really successful. And I think it's so true. I've certainly done that before. It is odd, but I think it works massively. I think if you have that aura that you've already kind of made it somewhat, then it reflects and people can see that. You know what I mean?
It's an element of like literally being crazy, but on the right shit. You know what I mean? Not making up some bullshit about like, you know, with a girl or something, but from like a purposeful activity working backwards. Like you and your event, man, when you were competing, working backwards from winning. What does winning look like? What does winning look like on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, and kind of building up to those goals? I think that's what it is. You know, you need to have the macro, and of course, then the fucking day to day where you get shit done. You know.
Cool.
I wanted to ask you about the mental health side of things. So you mentioned that you've been struggling for the last couple of months, and then you're getting better and in and out. How much do you think that was attributed to coming off gear, or do you think that was a contributing factor?
Yeah, I think to collate all of the other people that have been in my situation and their story, then I would say that I don't know how much of a percentage could be attributed to coming off gear. So it's really hard because, like I said, I went through a period whereby it was a brand new business, a lot of imposter syndrome. There was a lot of money involved in it. And that, I think, regardless of anabolics or not, TRT is going to have some form of impact on your mental health. Throw in the fact that we have, absolutely zero test. It's going to be quite a gnarly position to be in. So just have to be very proactive at things and kind of amplifying certain things that I do. I've got like a baseline thing. I've got like a baseline routine for like daily mental health, and it required more than that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe journaling twice a day, maybe meditating twice a day, maybe stretching twice a day. So it was definitely tough, but I think, and I kind of use Joe as an example as well, because he went through a similar position to me and has gone through it as well. He said as well, like, he struggled to get out of bed, and he seemed to be in quite a good spot when it came down to business, maybe very similar. Both kind of switched into function a little bit, both watched numbers decline in terms of clients. So it was multifaceted in terms of the amount of things that were going on. So it's quite hard to pinpoint that. But yeah, being on zero test as a man, and that being our primary hormone, is going to have some issues, most definitely.
What's that daily process you go through for, like, managing your mental health?
Yeah, for me at the moment, journaling is key. Like the ability, even on the days whereby, I think I said it in my journal the other day, I'm using Stephen Bartlett's The Diary at the moment. It's quite simple. I'm used to using Mind Journal. Mind Journal, I think, is a little bit better for the mental health side of things, because it gives you better cues and triggers. Whereas I think Stephen Bartlett's is slightly more bias in business and development, things like that, which is equally as fantastic. But there was a day yesterday. So you kind of, you rank your day from 1 to 5, 5 being very happy. And it was like I circled 5, and I wrote down, it's weird because I've circled a 5, but already I'm like kind of premeditating, like, why I shouldn't be feeling like this. Why am I feeling like a 5? This is crazy. Like, instantly I'm telling myself I'm feeling happy, which I am. And then all of a sudden I'm like, the thought starts coming saying, "Oh, you're not a 5 like this. Surely life can't be this good." So yeah, journaling, it has its pros and cons, but for me, it's very, very much a pro. Things like not looking at my phone straight away, that's a huge thing. Even before bed, I try as best as possible when I release a YouTube video at 7 to kind of call a cutoff point about 8ish, because sometimes I can go to bed and take a look at my YouTube, and one single comment can throw me off, and then I'm in a bad headspace. I go to sleep in a bad headspace. I wake up. Same as when I wake up, I try and have a full hour with no phone, because I've done it in the past whereby I might wake up and have done an Instagram post the night before, and I wake up and look at the engagement on it and it's poor, and then straight away within the first 5 minutes I'm in a negative headspace. So things like that are what I tend to do. I'm doing a YouTube video very soon about kind of daily things that I do for mental health, which I think will be good. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm sure there'll be more than just journaling and no phone.
Facts, man. Why do you think you react negatively to those things?
It's a good question. It stems back. So I had a little bit of therapy when I was going through a breakup, and my therapist at the time kind of dug a little deeper about moving school and going from a completely, very comfortable situation with my friends and being dumped into a position with no friend, like absolutely nothing. And I remember in year 7 trying to almost fit in and be a different person to who I was, just purely for the sake of fitting in. So she said that can kind of scar an individual. And when you go into like later life and you start putting yourself out there, then you kind of instinctively are very concerned about what people think, because you've experienced this like acceptance or trying to be accepted, and it will scar you and it will stay with you for a long time. So I think that is potentially maybe an issue. But yeah, it's a hard one, because on one hand, I'll say, like, forget the algorithm and I'm not going to be a slave to then at the other end, I'm also like, I am a brand, I am a business. I need to sort of be semi-worried about where it's going. I can't create content and it get no response. There needs to be that balance. And it's quite hard to find that balance. Some weeks I'll be absolutely fine. I won't be too concerned. Other weeks I'll be like, right, this was a really good week. We got 250 subscribers. What did we do in that week? And I'm like, I can feel myself going back into robot mode whereby I'm just purely creating content for the algorithm. So I do find it quite tricky to find that balance at times.
What benefit do you think therapy has had? Have you done it often?
I had quite a few sessions when I went through the breakup. We did like CBT and a bit of hypnotherapy as well. And I think just to speak to someone that's totally unbiased is very refreshing. You know, as much as you've got your close friends around you, they have a tendency to probably not feel comfortable with going quite deep. And when you do, they kind of just favor whatever you're saying and not give you that. That's why I almost like speaking to people about my issues in like fucking smoking areas. Do you know what I mean? They don't even know your problems. You know, when you just get close to people at a rate and you just like, you tell them, this is the first time I've had a different
fucking DC-10.
Yeah, look, honestly, man, I've had better therapy sessions in DC-10 than actual therapy sessions because it's coming from a totally new, like 2 new eyes and a totally different concept. And there's a couple of times where I've like approached a situation and they've told me something. I thought, oh my God, yeah. I mean, it could be totally the substance that they're on, but at the same time, it's very helpful to have that second opinion that isn't your friend and is just taken on board what you've got to say. So yeah, therapy is brilliant. And I would like to get back into it, kind of being in a different headspace and just seeing what potentially can be potentially be done in a different scenario. You know, the reason why I went to therapy was because of a breakup, and then now it's more to do with kind of being in a different position in my life. So yeah, I mean, I'd quite like to pick it up again, most definitely.
Definitely, man. I used BetterHelp for a good while. So like I use it because convenience, like, you know, fucking 101 Atomic Habits, like make it like easy. So I was like, I'm not going into some therapy fucking unit somewhere driving across the city, you know. So I did it for a while just because like I got into like a very senior role, like really young. And I was like 25 years old managing 35-year-olds.
Wow.
So I just felt like I was just super stressed, just couldn't like working 16, 17 hours a day. And my girlfriend recommended it because she did it when she was younger. She was like, look, just do it. And I did it. And it was the best thing I ever did. Did 8 weeks. You do a subscription, and you might be familiar with it, but for other people, subscription, I think it was like $140 a month, which is nothing for 4 sessions. Of course, everyone is different and their means are different. But man, like that's like less than 40 quid a session, you know? And it was awesome. And I feel like I learned so, like, my girlfriend said something really interesting. She was like, I'm gonna fuck this up, but it was like therapy is only like as good as you work on it. So like as good as you work to fix those issues, it'll work for you, you know. Whereas like if you don't work with it, that's where you could go through spending fucking 3 years doing it and getting none of the benefit. Like, were you actioning a lot of things that you were learning?
Yeah, but I think you need to go in there with a different mindset. I expected to go into therapy on session 1 and be cured. So I sort of left. It was a bit anticlimactic. I remember ringing my mum like, "No shit, like she didn't sort me out. I'm still upset." Actually, like, it doesn't work. My mum's a psychiatric nurse. She's been a mental health nurse and she's retiring very soon. So she's like, "Look, you have to stick at it. It's not something that happens overnight, and you will notice that you will get more and more vulnerable as each episode kind of continues, and that's where the growth development is." So I was like, all right, cool, I understand. I went back to it. So I went in with a completely different mindset and just started to assess. It might be just like the smallest pinpoint thing that happened in your childhood that you could then expand on, which is really cool. And I never really had that before. So, yeah, like I would love to go back in. Would love to go back into it.
It's funny because like the therapist doesn't tell you what to do. You're like, you know, I have no idea what I'm fucking doing. And you want someone to tell you what to do, but they just ask you like why you do it. So then like instead of answering and moving on like 2 fucking males do and just forgetting about it and blocking it off, they want you to go deeper and unlock another element. So I recommend everyone to do it. Like I've said it to loads of my friends as well. I was like, look, fuck it, you know, it's nothing off your back. You come out of it a much better position, you know.
Yeah. And you subconsciously, it almost works subconsciously, whereby over the duration, maybe 6 or 7 sessions, because you've highlighted a certain thing in the past that's happened, and then you might find yourself in that position again, but you've learned from that experience without you even realizing that you've gone back into a better habit. And I thought it was a case of like, hello, here are my problems, and she's going to give me a list of things to do. Like, and I remember remember handing out, it was like 50 quid. I remember handing over the 50 quid after the first session thinking, fuck, like, that's a lot of money for that. But then by the end of it, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, have more money.
It's tools. It's tools. You know what I mean? Like that's what you're meant to be learning. Absolutely. Fuck, man. Did you ever struggle with confidence?
Yeah, huge, massive. I still struggle now. You know, I'm potentially one character on Instagram stories, but whenever if you see me for the first time ever, like in a room or in a restaurant, I'm confident in my ability to go into a room and, you know, chest up, shoulders back, but I wait till I'm spoken to, and I'm not, you know, one of these loud characters, and I do find it quite hard when we're in situations where there is a loud character. Not that we're fighting, not like from an alpha male point of view that we're fighting for attention, just because I'm not really used to that. I mean, my friendship group are quite very dry, sarcastic sense of humor. We're not like the sort of loud type. So yeah, I mean, from day number one, I've always struggled with confidence, and I think that was a lot of that was down to the kind of my physical appearance and not wanting to be seen. And I remember used to go really red in school. You know, when you used to get really embarrassed, like the teacher would say, and I would just every bright red. And it used to be like a going thing, or my mate at the time would get me going saying, "You're going red," and I wasn't even going embarrassed, but if I said that, I'd just go bright red. And I think it took me into like sixth form to get rid of that. Do you know what I mean? It took me into sixth form to kind of. I think you have lots of peaks in your life. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of like the way you look and the way you feel. And I think I peaked probably in around about sixth form when I started to take training seriously. And I remember going on my first lads holiday to Malia or my second lads holiday to Malia. And it was like the first time I'd ever have abs. Like I was like, oh my God, I've got abs, which is crazy. It's a weird like phenomenon when you're not used to it at all. And it just excels that confidence. I remember walking around Malia with my shirt off, just thinking like, I used to look back at it and I think, what am I doing? But that was the highest peak in confidence. And then it kind of dips a little bit, especially when you become a bodybuilder and you go through that routine of off season. And, you know, you're constantly reminded to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And remember the previous off season, I pushed scale weight up to kind of like 115, and I was fat. Like, let's be honest, it was not fat in probably what the vast majority of the public will see as fat. But for me, it was like, God, my face is blown here, my condition's off, I'm pasty. And then you have the spike after that was like the post show, you know, me and Joe in Marbella, full of confidence, just like almost too much confidence. It was crazy. And walking into a gym and taking your kit off and like sort of knowing people are looking at you, it does skew your ego a little bit and does kind of blow your head up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I have and probably will continue to struggle with confidence a little bit. We had our first talk at the coach convention in Manchester last year, and there was a little bit of nerves to begin with, but then you kind of become accustomed to like all these people are here just to listen to you speak and things like that. But I think it's more imposter syndrome than anything. Do you know what I mean? We all felt that.
Of course.
We just thought how people have actually travelled all the way to Manchester to listen to us speak. It doesn't quite make sense, and I think that's nice. I don't think it'll ever make sense. Like you know. Even when we're out and about and people bump in to me and you kind of gauge that they're quite nervous. We had it at the High Rocks this weekend. People like a couple of people like, and I'm like, I don't get it. I'm like, I just try and ease them into it. Like, how's your weekend been and things like that. So I think it's nice that you get it, to be completely honest with you. I think it keeps you in a good spot.
Definitely, man. And I think as you level up, so you went from going to the gym to starting training to going into bodybuilding, that's when you start feeling like imposter, but you're moving to the next level. I mean, so you've conquered that level, you know. And I think what's cool about that as well, I mentioned a lot of my podcasts, is about like doing something like that gives you confidence you can do other things too. So like you got really fucking shredded and big and you went through all the difficult mental health stuff, man. So when you went to build your recent brand, sure, of course you can do it. Working with the agency was probably a shit show, but like you've done a lot of other stuff. I always think that, like, is that you've done all the other really bad stuff. You can go do something else. Maybe you may not be as analytical as you are about focus, but whatever, you know, each to their own. You'll get there eventually. But I think that's the beauty of like confidence, is that you can roll it. You roll it on to the next thing, and you have to just deal with the highs and ebbs of it. You're not going away.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, as long as you're not, I mean, I'll always be open and honest about like when I repositioned myself and started doing more running stuff and content like that, and people ask me questions, I'm like, look, I don't, this isn't really my field, but here's my opinion on the best running shoes as an example, things like that. So I think the confidence that's been built over the years has allowed me to speak openly, but it's more so my opinion, like the whole running shoe thing. I feel comfortable in these running shoes, and people go, no, they're shit. I'm like, but okay, but I feel comfortable in them, and maybe someone else will. So I don't know really where you want to go from here, mate.
Yeah, of course, man, of course. When you're kind of changing between functional and everything, and you're going through the years, have you ever thought about like that kind of element of like finding your voice? You mentioned Simon Sinek in your recent video. You ever given much thought about that? Like, as in, like, what is it you're meant to be doing, and what is it you want to do?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I just tend to go with like what I'm feeling in the moment. So I definitely do have an element of what is my why when coming to like release content or release businesses, things like that, or concepts. Like that's the first thing I ask me. What is my why? Why do I want to do Metflow? It's because I want people to instill good habits and become psychologically stronger, so that when they're faced with adversity, they can deal with that. Do you know what I mean? That's the why. In things like when I'm transitioning to functional or I'm doing more running, I'm not really asking myself why. Like, why are you doing this? I'm just saying, oh, because I want to, and I enjoy it, and I'm excited to see I'm excited to push myself in a different arena, really. Like what the human body and the human mind is a fascinating, both two fascinating tools. So like the growth is exponential. Like let's all try new things and experience new things. So I'm never really, I mean, I do ask myself why, but probably not as much as you may think I would be.
Yeah, of course, of course. And there's nothing wrong with that too, because I think you can get really fixated in that fucking personal development route and like take like the enjoyment out of it. Like, of course, you can look at the algorithm and be like, I need to write content a specific way, or I need to take certain photos. But then, man, you're just kind of always chasing some fucking random shit. Like, it's nice that you were able to take like the summer off and go to Ibiza and go to Marbella and chill out. Like, there kind of has to be that element of it. And I do, like, I fundamentally believe in like the art of hard work. So I feel like that no one works fucking hard anymore. But like, there has to be that other side of it too, of just like, all right, let's just kind of go with it. Let's swing and just see where we can end up,
Yeah, of course, because people will buy into you and the story anyway. Like, what's so nice from a lot of YouTube comments from people when they can see that I'm maybe struggling a little bit is that they comment like, you could do a YouTube channel on chess and I'd still watch it. And I'm like, that fucking means a lot. I really do. I love chess as well, but like, don't give me any ideas. But it's really nice to see that. And I think if you can truly have that balance, you look at social media content over a 7-day period, maybe you do 3 posts that you want to do, and then do 2 posts that have that kind of that depth and that breadth. Do you know what I mean? So like kind of cater to the needs of the algorithm. Maybe don't go all in or double down. But then again, I think you look at someone like Fergus Crawley at the moment. Do you follow Fergus Crawley? Gymshark athlete. His story is phenomenal, absolutely fantastic. I love the bloke. He is almost kind of doubled down on looking at YouTube as a business, and it's paying off. You can tell. When you start to take YouTube and social media seriously, it gets that response. When you start paying attention to analytics and thumbnails and SEO and targeting and things like that, it definitely works. But at the same time, and I'm sure he'll be open about it as well, you kind of find yourself in a position whereby you're not going against the grain, but like you're doing things for the sake of the algorithm, and you almost get addicted to the success. Do you know what I mean? It's very easy to get addicted to seeing numbers go up. It's completely human. I'm on 39. I'm on Instagram. I'm on 39.9 thousand Instagram followers, and my followers go up and they go down, up and they go down. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to get to 40K. Do you know what I mean? I really want to see 40. I've seen 30K for so long, and I notice it. Like, people will unfollow me just because I'll go and do a story, as I mentioned before, about crisps. They'll just think, oh, fuck this guy. He's doing content about like growth and development and fitness, but then he's also talking about crisps, and people are just really flippant like that, and they'll just unfollow you. So I definitely go through bouts and phases where I become really fixated, or I might do a month of YouTube where I do Monday and Wednesday uploads, and I see straight away increase frequency, increase views, increase subscribers. I'm like, this is good. Like, let's continue this. But then I get to a point where I'm like, shit, Wednesday's coming up. I've got no idea for a YouTube video. Then I frantically think like, right, and then that's the worst spot to be in. So I think if you can really attain that balance, which to be honest with you, we always talk about it, don't we? Like balance and achieve. I don't think you can ever achieve balance, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think it's always
it's your own definition.
Absolutely, and it's always going to bias one or the other. You know, I think that's the true balance. Like you might go, right, for the next 3 months, I'm going to be hell bent on business. I'm going to be unbalanced, and then I'm going to instill a little bit of lifestyle. Then I'm going to regain balance. I don't think you can just completely flatline that. I think that thing's just a complete myth.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's interesting the space you're in because, like, when you're fucking succumb to the algorithm, you're always changing. And I know you spoke to Colin about this. I was listening to the podcast this morning about how, you know, if you had to just be an algorithm whore, you just be on fucking TikTok 24/7. And it's funny because, like, podcasting is the exact same, right? Like, people's attention spans are so fucking low that unfortunately 100,000 people won't listen to this because they just can't sit through it. But I've seen that with my own YouTube videos. I did a fucking hair loss video, have 250,000 views, but if I record a podcast, it gets a fraction of it. But I prefer this, and I learn more from this, and it helps more people. So I kind of worked toward that instance, and instead of working backwards from it, I'm just happy being able to kind of build a business around it as a result. But yeah, you know, as in, it's kind of like there's no right art to it, because if you go away from where you want to do what you want to do, then you end up doing fucking someone else's work. Basically, as a worker.
Of course, but then again, like if you become so fixated on like trying to get viral, there's so many people that try viral videos. Yeah, it's all very well and good you getting 500k views on a viral video, but how are you monetizing that? Bar just YouTube going like, well done, you've got 500,000 views. Here's 200 quid. I mean, YouTube paid poor anyway, right? You might be all excited and you've got this like, right, I'm hell bent. I'm going to create a viral piece of content. Got 500k views. How are you monetizing that? How are you going to turn even like 1% of those 500k into business, into online coaching? Like it doesn't work like that. Back in the day, maybe. Back in the day, a company might see that you've got 500k video, and you could say, like your hair loss one as an example, you could say to a company, look, my previous hair loss video got, I don't know, 500,000 views. Let me work with you. You pay me like 10 grand and you'll get a lot of bit. Doesn't really work like that now. Like the correlation between viewership and subscribers and how much you get paid doesn't correlate anymore. And you can see it, a lot of these big YouTubers are struggling. Views all over the place at the moment. I wouldn't even look at it too much, to be honest with you. Like YouTube algorithm, Instagram, TikTok, it's just a minefield at the moment with like what do you, it's almost like to YouTube and Instagram, what do you want to see from me? Like what is it? I might do an Instagram reel, like a get ready with me, and it will bang like 50k views, and then I'll do like a piece of good content, nothing. So it's just, it's an odd place to be at the moment, social media. I think it will start to iron itself out. I said that to Luke Johnson the other day, and he said to me, there will be a point whereby we almost regain our regularity with patterns. And I look at my content back in the day, and like a YouTube blog to London, where I just might go to Selfridges, grab a bit of coffee. I used to get like 30, 40k views. And now it's like I'm struggling to get like 20k views, and that's with 65,000 subscribers. And I look at the big guys, like some of the big YouTubers that were like a million subs, and they're like getting 15, 20k views. It's just like something will happen. I know it will. I've seen it happen before. It's just weathering the storm and just maintaining nirvana as you go through it.
Of course, man. Of course. There's a guy from Twitter, like a young, like 21-year-old dude who's based in Guatemala, and he's a one saying called "like saying cash," and it's fucking sick because everyone putting out like platitude content, either like pictures of their ass or abs. Fair enough, you might have a good ass, but that doesn't contribute towards like sales or business or anything like that. So get ready with me means fuck all in 2023. Maybe back in the day you'd get a shitty deal with some like Boohoo brand. But it's funny though, isn't it? Because like we've gone through that phase where people are stuck in just creating things that are like in the business space, like it'd be the hobo CEO. We're bringing in a hobo as a CEO, that kind of element. So it's all a load of bollocks. So I think your foundations are solid. That's what all that matters. So whether you go whatever path you're going in, man, it doesn't fucking matter, you know? Cool. When you started building out Metflow, you started working with an agency. What was the agency work? What did they try to do for you?
So they help with branding. They help with the kind of email list. This is all very new to me. Like they said, the fact that you got to where you are today with no email list is quite impressive. And it's, you know, Facebook ads, completely new to me. Never ran an ad. Ended up spending a lot of money on Facebook ads when really for a product like Metflow, it doesn't really work. You know, Metflow ads work well when it's a product, but when it's like a service like Metflow that has so many intricate details and parts to it, it's quite hard to convey that on a Facebook ad. And I felt like, you know, just throwing money at Facebook ads was the worst thing to do. So we pulled that a little bit. They were fantastic in the sense that they helped me understand automations, active campaign, branding, logos, feel, you know, we did well kind of understanding my demographic as well, which I think is really important. I think there is more to it when someone asks you who your demographic is and you just say 20 to 24. There's so much more underneath it. That is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we start to understand different themes and sports and clothes. And once you understand that, it makes it so much easier to target, so much easier. And I've certainly noticed that now. And you know, from a marketing point of view, when you, so say like the Ibiza Classic at the moment, the way that you sort of almost subtly market that is you might be doing more Instagram content around like house music or like things like that. And that clicks and that gets people engaged. So they helped a lot. But I think it's marketing companies never got to truly understand you. You know, there's a couple of times whereby they may write emails for me and I'd read that back and think, I don't really sound like that. I don't really speak like that. So once I've taken a lot from them, to be fair, and all of the knowledge and tools that I've taken from them has allowed me to transfer that into this most recent Ibiza Classic. And I'm very confident and very competent now in kind of understanding active campaign and the role of emails. And there's a good book called, it's Jeff Walker, I think. I don't know if you've heard of it, about product release. 2 seconds, I'll try and grab it now. It's really good about kind of pre-launch. Luke Johnson got me into this. I'll send
that.
It.
Is wild. It's wild that you didn't have that background though, because like for me, from the outside, it looks like you always had it because your branding was so clean.
Yeah.
Your membership site and everything.
That was just all self-taught and looking at other people and how successful they've been. And I've always talked about like the female influence as well, like the aesthetic of female influencers and how well they nail it and how well they engage with their target audience as well. So it was very much throughout the last 10 years, imitation in a way, and then figuring out whether it works or not. So when, you know, even when I used to work for Luke and like bigger companies, it just used to be like, what is all this? Like, what is a Facebook ad? What is an automation? What is that? It felt like almost like not real. Like I always wanted to be I just wanted to get my business success through just me. But that kind of, you reach a ceiling with that. You need to kind of expand that a little bit more. So yeah, it was great. It was great. It was stressful, but it was good stress, and it's allowed me to take on board a lot of tools for moving forward, you know.
You were saying before that it was like really exhausting. What was like the difficulty? Was it a combination of coming off tea, like all that time around that?
Yeah, it's coming off tea, coming off testosterone. The workouts for High Rocks were grueling, you know, far more intense than the bodybuilding session. I'd have taken a push-pull legs any day over like sprint work and AMRAPs and things like that. So, but then again, I needed that because that 40-minute AMRAP in the gym where I could exert myself and, you know, have, you know, coughing up my lungs was in essence a dopamine hit in itself. So I required that. But it was also the poison as well, in the sense that it was so grueling that it would mean that my fatigue levels were so high, which would then in turn make dealing with client check-ins hard because I'm absolutely knackered. So it just felt like there were so many moving components in that period of time. But that's what hard work is, you know, like,
of course, man.
That is just hard work. And that's good. And because then what you might do is you might go through a patch like maybe now a little bit whereby Metflow is kind of up and running, it sorted itself out. I've got quite a nice run into Ibiza, and I'm like, I haven't got a huge amount of work on. So you kind of use this as almost a little recovery patch before you then go and doubling down on something. So yeah, it's just hard work, innit? That's all it is.
Yeah. It's a ramp up period in the beginning where it's like absolutely fucking frantic, and then you kind of cruise out of it then as a result, you know?
Yeah,
you learned that.
You feel like
you learned a lot then about yourself, you know?
Absolutely, 100%, absolutely. And I always, when I'm in that position, I will always like try and write down either in a journal or a notebook how I'm feeling at that point, so I can look back and go, look, that's key. That is that you've gone through that. And It's helped amplify your business, and it's helped amplify, you as a brand. I think it's very, very important to highlight and show that, and never, you asked earlier on when you said, why are you so open? It's like, I think people need to see that, because sometimes they don't see it. They just see you get from A to B, and they don't see the journey in between. And it's very easy for them to think that you've just got to where you are, cushy, like it completely easy. It's like, that's not the case. Metflow, Ibiza Classic, YouTube, Instagram, online coaching, flow, it all takes a lot of hard work, and a lot of the time people don't see that. So that's why I feel like it's important to kind of get off how I'm feeling at that time.
Definitely, man. How do you maintain those brands? Do you like outsource some of it to VAs and shit, or do you just run automatically?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all me, really. It's kind of like Thomas Moore is the brand, and then you've got this sub brand of Ibiza Classic, Metflow, Flow Online Coaching. I quite like seeing it like that. Yeah, and then kind of almost like, I kind of consider TM Cycles another brand in itself, just from the YouTube and Instagram side of things. So, but it's like a DJ equalizer board, Metflow. We have to put more into that over the winter, because we start in January. Then when that's running, I can pull back a little bit. Metflow then segments or segues into the Ibiza Classic, so we put a little bit more content into that. And then once Ibiza Classic's done, it's about like the lifestyle stuff around summer. So yeah, it's just constantly going. But it's nice. I like being on my toes like that. But it's important to have a little bit of downtime. I'm looking forward to having a good week away on holiday, just relaxing a little bit, because I don't feel like I've had that for probably, I don't know, a couple of years. Even though I have been away, it's always been like quite relentless, in the sense that I'm still working away. I'm still creating content. I'm still thinking of like camera shots and camera angles. It's been very rare. The last time I probably felt completely relaxed was Marbella. The second time I went back out there, come off social media. I haven't done that in a while, and that's something that I preach. And I can kind of feel it when it grows and grows and grows, that I need like a little bit of a break off social media. And it's getting to that point now where I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll take a couple of days off.
Yeah, man. You were the first person that I heard of that went to like 0 following. You told me that. You were on our first session. You were like, I just unfollowed everyone. And since then, I didn't do the full nuclear, but I went from like following like 1,000 people down to like 100. And it was the best thing I could have possibly done, man. Just to do a couple of things. One, I don't spend as much time on social media. And then two, when I am on it, I'm following people who either motivate me, educate me, or entertain me to some extent that moves me some way forward. It's not bullshit, you know what I mean? Not people that I used to follow years ago that are just putting fucking dumb shit up at home,
Of course, yeah. It's key. I think everyone should be doing it. But, I've got 2 accounts. I've got personal, and they're for my actual close friends and people that I enjoy. But I've got like a rule now where I don't follow anyone unless, we've had a conversation before. All the people that I follow on my TM Cycles Instagram, I could go out for a beer with them. Do you know what I mean? Like I could sit down and have a conversation. There's no point in following people that I can't do that with. Certainly, from an education point of view, there may be 1 or 2 people that I don't know, but they're very inspiring to me. And it's not just in fitness. A lot of the guys are from fashion that I look up to and things like that. So yeah, I just think get rid of the deadwood that because you're just endlessly scrolling. And if you are endlessly scrolling, try and make it good, try and make it positive, try and make it informative and education. Try and make it turn it into an education space.
Definitely, man. Before we finish up, I want to ask you about alcohol. Did you ever kind of tinker with kind of pulling it back at any points? Do you move the needle on it? Have you seen any benefit from doing that?
Yeah, I'm not a big drinker anyway. I've never been in a position whereby I have thought, right, I need to pull back on my drinking. Probably a little bit actually when I went through the breakup post show. So it was like I couldn't drink on prep, obviously. And then show finished, and then I was at home quite isolated in the area that I used to live in. And then I kind of noticed my frequency of drink increase a little bit. So, and it would be like my reward, I get to the end of the day and I'd have like half a bottle of wine, and then I'd on recycled day, I'd look at the bottles and think, hold on a minute, it's not like me to like have this. I mean, it's not even a lot of alcohol. It's a lot for me at that time, but alcohol's never been an issue. I've always been able to control it. I've always been able to drive to the pub, have a couple of pints and drive back. And a couple of my friends are actually like really not shocked by that, but think, how do you do it? Because they're quite.
Can you do that legally?
Yeah, you could, absolutely. Yeah, cool. I mean, I think it's 5 pints and drive. 5 and drive. But
is that actually it?
Yeah, no. I'm joking. I think you're allowed 2 pints, 1 or 2 pints. But I can easily do that. I can go and watch the football.
Yeah.
And because I love my routine and I love my home so much, I've created that kind of that environment whereby I'm excited to go home. And I've got a really close friend of mine who's also kind of going through that process at the moment. He's like, he used to look at me and think, I don't know how you do it. Now he's like, oh, I get it now. Like I actually get excited about going back home, getting to my routine, you know, little things like my skincare routine. Having that allows you to be in that position whereby you have that additional avenue. So yeah, I mean, I've never had a problem with drink or drugs. I can control it very well. I know my limitations. I know not to push things. Sensible guy, you know?
Of course, man. Of course. Well, Tom, I want to say a massive thank you, man. You're a fucking G. Appreciate it. You know, every single time we chat, it's always good.
Top man. Hope you're having a good time over in Singapore.